Hello everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for another story here at Annie Narrates. The title for this one goes like this. Husband shows off all the proposals he gets by installing this one social media app to spice up the marriage, but when I give him a taste of his own medicine, his demeanor changes immediately, as this is who confesses his feelings for me, and his whole family is destroyed as a result. So I've lurked here for quite a while now, but it looks like I unfortunately have a post of my own this time. I can't talk to anyone from my life about this, so I thought that I would post here instead. This is a throwaway because my husband and friends are on here too, and they follow my account. All the names I'm using here are fake for obvious reasons, and apart from some important details, I'm going to keep stuff as vague as I can, because the last thing I need is someone from home finding about this. My husband Jake, 29 male, and I, 28 female, have been together for 6 years, married for 1. Recently, he started doing this really annoying thing. Not sure if annoying is even the right word honestly. And I tried to get back at him to show how messed up this was. But it has backfired in the worst possible way. I want to give some background first. So, we've been together since I was 22. And I met him at my very first job after I graduated. He has just started working too. Different companies, same building. And we hit it off after a meeting at a nearby cafe during our lunch breaks. To be honest, he has always been more outgoing than me. You know, the type to go out every weekend and party and have like 40 different groups of friends. I never had a problem with this. I'm not insecure, and I like the way I look. And I'm not trying to be snobby here, but I graduated from NYU. Had a good job in my current city, and just liked to stay in. While he went out every weekend, I would usually read at home or hang out with the same group of friends that I've had since high school and college. This arrangement worked out for both of us when we moved in together about 2 years into the relationship. I got along great with his family, and they were super sweet and welcoming. And I became pretty close with his siblings, Dana, 32 female, and Ron, 34 male. I would also like to mention that while he was a bit of a flirt when we met, I had never doubted him in our entire relationship and had no reason to think he would be cheating on me. In the 6 years we've been together, he has never flirted with other women or anything, in front of me at least, even though many women approach him and stare at him whenever we go out. I'm not surprised by this. He is a good-looking guy. Now that I've said the background, let's get to the issue at hand. Jake has a friend, Patrick, 30 male. They've known each other since high school and are extremely close, but I have never particularly liked him. He's your run-of-the-mill misogynist who doesn't see women as people and was disrespectful to me a few times when Jake and I had started dating. Because of this, I'd never really liked him, and once we moved in together, Patrick stopped coming around as much. Lately though, we've been seeing a lot more of him. He apparently lost his job due to some sort of inappropriate relationship he was having with one of his coworkers and moved closer to our town in our state. Jake had been consistently going out with him to keep him company and make sure he's okay. This was in October, so more than a month ago now. He even came to our place for Thanksgiving this year, and while I still didn't really like him, I didn't want to kick him while he was down and put my husband in a difficult situation. This might seem like a lot of rambling, but I feel like it's very important to what's been happening. Ever since Jake started hanging out with Patrick again regularly, he has changed so much. Like I said, he's always been an extrovert and a bit of a friendly flirt, but he has always been respectful to me and our relationship and never made me feel insecure. From the beginning of November this year though, he has started coming home from bar nights with Patrick and bragging about how many hot young girls still want him, which is creepy, but that's an entirely different issue. I'll admit, I was kind of shocked at first, but I just took it as some sort of weird joke. This became a regular thing as he and Patrick kept going out, and it started making me really uncomfortable. I sat him down about a week before Thanksgiving this year to talk to him about it and told him not only is the stuff he's been telling me super weird and borderline creepy, but it's also extremely disrespectful to our marriage and relationship, and it makes me feel insecure. He apologized but mostly brushed it off, saying that he was just having fun and trying to tell me that he still loves me and trying to tell me that he still loves only me despite all the attention he's been getting. Around this point, I genuinely was so confused and hurt, but I didn't know how to respond because I was feeling kind of insane, like I was overreacting. I knew we had different personalities, so maybe I just wasn't understanding him. He was acting like it was no big deal, and I had never had to deal with this sort of situation before. I was also super close to his family, and they're so sweet that I just didn't want to bring this up with them either, because I didn't want to seem problematic and overly sensitive. After Thanksgiving though, was when the real bomb dropped, and he sat me down one day and told me he wanted to download a very popular dating app. Hint, it rhymes with binge. Just to show me how many people are still into him. I laughed because it was so completely ridiculous that I thought it absolutely had to be a joke. But nope, he was dead serious and already actually had installed it. Now, I know a lot of people here will tell me that I should have left him immediately then, but I feel like that is easier said than done, especially online. In real life, there are so many factors that play into relationships that it's just not possible, and I will admit, I was still very much into him and didn't want to lose the person I'd chosen to marry. He did reassure me that this was just a joke, that he wasn't serious about meeting anyone, and that he didn't even message any of the people who matched him or reply to anyone. I asked him why this even came up and if he was unhappy in the relationship or something. He told me he would see Patrick use the app when we went out together, and it just seemed like a fun way for him to spice things up for us because the matches he got made him feel better about himself and also made him realize how much he only had eyes for me. He also told me, only half-jokingly, that I should take this as a sign to, quote-unquote, put more effort for him, whatever that means. I was absolutely not okay with this, but I didn't do anything about it, which I'm still kicking myself for. Every day he'd come and show me the matches he'd got with young, attractive women, asking him out or just flirting with him, and it started making me more and more annoyed. Even after I told him to stop and after multiple fights, he still wouldn't listen, telling me I'm being too sensitive and he's just trying to spice things up for us. I decided to take matters into my own hands. Last week, he came over after meeting Patrick again to show me all of his matches. This time though, I was prepared. I sat patiently while he went through 4 matches that he had gotten that night, and when he was done bragging about how he still got it and how I should really step it up, I just smiled sweetly and told him I completely agreed with him and wanted to try to spice things up from my end too. While he was out, I downloaded said dating app as well, set up a profile, and let it sit for a couple of hours. I opened the app in front of him, and I already had 12 matches within 2 hours of making my profile. And I have to say, the look on his face was very satisfying. He was shocked and seemed pretty upset, but obviously couldn't say anything to me. I was feeling pretty petty and proceeded to open up each message and match turn by turn. This is when things went south very fast. A few people in, my husband grabbed the phone from me and looked completely livid. I thought he was just acting jealous, but my stomach dropped when I saw what he was looking at. Remember my sister-in-law I mentioned earlier? Dana had been married to Matt, 38 male, for like 8 years now. Well, he was in my messages, and Jake and I were shocked. I think we sort of forgot our own petty little fight at this moment, because if this really was Matt, then we would be having a way bigger problem than Patrick and dating apps. He opened the message in front of me, and we saw this paragraph of Matt confessing his love for me. Please keep in mind this was my brother-in-law, who I did not see very often. I decided to message him back, asking why he wasn't a dating app to begin with, and he responded by asking me the same. I ended up just not replying, but Jake and I ended up having a huge fight after this, with him saying I had complicated everything by being petty. I felt really bad for Dana too, because she was such a sweet woman and I really loved and respected her. I had no idea Matt felt this way, and I can't remember ever doing anything to lead him on either. Anyway, Jake was very upset, and we obviously had to let Dana know too. I ended up taking screenshots and giving her a call asking to meet up. I met her yesterday, and showed her the screenshots of his messages and profile and everything. Safe to say, it was very messy. She didn't believe me at first, and she was super confused as to why I even had the app to begin with. I ended up telling her everything about Jake and how he'd been behaving over the past couple of months. I told her I had had enough and decided to give him a taste of his own medicine by making my own profile a week ago, and that this was one of the very first matches I got. Dana was very upset with Jake, saying that this behavior was absolutely not okay. She was also heartbroken about Matt and more disgusted that he had messaged me confessing love. She thanked me for letting her know and left. Since then, my in-laws have been blowing up my phone with texts, mainly my mother-in-law, telling me that I have messed things up with Dana's marriage and that I should have handled things better. Jake is also very angry at me for telling his family about Patrick and the dating apps, and of course, about the fact that I showed him up by getting so many matches. I'm really starting to feel like the villain here because things are so messy right now, and all of it somehow seems to be my fault. I'm sorry if this post isn't super clear and is all over the place. I'm just super confused and frazzled right now and rambling. I want to know, am I the a-hole for being petty and for blowing up Dana's marriage? Does anyone have any advice at all on how to fix this? Thought I would update here really quick because this has been super therapeutic NGL. So after telling Dana everything a few days ago, I was in a pretty bad spot. Jake was so mad at me that he decided to stay at Patrick's for the past couple of days. He hasn't been answering my texts and calls either, and I don't know what to do. I'm starting to feel extremely guilty for trying to get back at Jake in such a childish way. I'm also so anxious because Matt texted me huge paragraphs chewing me out for ruining his relationship. Dana hasn't spoken to me yet, but like I said in my last post, mother-in-law was pretty angry at me too. Up until yesterday, she had been texting me to ask what was up and telling me that I was out of line for ruining Dana's marriage. I finally texted her back yesterday, telling her that it wasn't my intention. Jake and I were having a separate argument when Matt's profile showed up, and I thought Dana deserved to know. Safe to say, mother-in-law had no idea what I was talking about. She called me last night while I was at home and asked me to explain everything to her properly. I was so relieved because someone was finally willing to listen to what I had to say. I started sobbing on the phone to her immediately and told her everything from the beginning with Patrick and Jake and the dating apps, essentially everything in my first post. We then decided to meet up today for a coffee, where I handed her my phone and let her look through my text with Jake, Matt, and Dana. I also explained everything in detail again, backed it up with proof, and she listened to the whole thing without interrupting. And then, to my surprise, she actually apologized and told me none of this was my fault and that she'd take care of things. Again, not sure what she meant by that, but I am glad someone thinks that I'm not the villain here. Super short update, but nothing has really happened over the past few days. I am still extremely guilty over how things went, but I'm glad to have mother-in-law in my corner. Okay, so this blew up way more than I expected. I haven't had the chance to update recently because I've been mentally exhausted and have been throwing myself into my work so I can sort of avoid the trash fire that is in my life right now. It's been about a couple of weeks since my last update, and since last time, I have also received a bunch of questions from people on this thread. While I did reply to a few comments here and there, I might not be able to respond to everyone. I'm going to cover a few basic stuff here, mostly because, like I said last time, this has been very therapeutic and everyone here has been, mostly, so supportive and sweet. Get out your popcorn and put up your feet, because this is going to be pretty long. First of all, we met right after college. He was attractive and outgoing, and I wasn't that much of an extrovert, but I would consider myself attractive and had my fair share of attention from guys all through college and afterward. I wasn't in nearly as many relationships as him, but it just wasn't a thing, you know. We were different people, and what mattered was that we loved and respected each other. I will admit, I let a lot of things slide with him in our relationship, checking out other women, being flirty, going out often. I don't think this was because of any insecurity on my part. I just figured that's how he was, and I didn't want to try and change his personality. Now that I think about it, this may have been just because I was afraid to lose him and didn't think I could do better than someone as attractive and successful as him, like some people here suggested. I do have to thank you for that. It was a pretty eye-opening revelation. At the beginning of our relationship, it didn't happen much. He only had eyes for me. As we got more comfortable with each other, he escalated in how he behaved. Hindsight really is 2020. This was the first time I had put my foot down and retaliated, so I guess that's why he was so annoyed. After my last update, he also accused me of flirting with my brother-in-law Matt and leading him on, saying that I was being disloyal to him. The hypocrisy is insane, and when I argued telling him that I had done nothing of the sort, he stopped bringing it up, knowing he had nothing to back him up. He came home a couple of days after my last update, but things felt so different between us. He didn't apologize or speak to me much. Christmas was lonely. We usually go to his parents for lunch, but this time, I ended up going to my parents' house alone, and I have been switching between their place and a hotel in Chicago since then, which has been exhausting. I think I knew my marriage was over at that point. I filled my parents in on what was going on, and they've been super supportive. I also finally reached out to a few friends, who put me in my place and said what a lot of people here told me as well, that the dating app thing was ridiculous and he was in no way ready to be in a committed relationship. So yeah, since Christmas, I've contacted a divorce lawyer in my city who has amazing reviews. The place we have is rented, and our finances remain mostly separate, so I'm not too concerned about that. As for people asking me if anything I had done may have led Matt to believe I liked him back, I truly do not think so. Like I said, I pretty much only met him at family events, or if we ever visited Dana's. Since Jake and I live in a different city than his family, we don't see each other much. I truly did not see this coming. We don't live in New York City, although I did go to uni there. We currently live in Chicago, and his parents and sister live a couple of hours drive from here. My parents live in New Jersey, which is where I spent Christmas this year. Not the best place to start 2024, but at least I'm entering another year leaving all the mess behind me. That's what I've been telling myself at least. Now on to the real update. Mother-in-law was upset at me because she didn't know the whole story, only what Dana, Matt, and Jake had told her. Matt had convinced Dana that he wasn't on the dating app for anything other than meeting new friends, and that I had been flirting with him at family functions and had texted him on the app to try and start an affair with him. Matt had then told her that I had fabricated his text to me to get back at him for not accepting my advances. Dana believed him, and I don't blame her at all. She told mother-in-law Matt's version of the story, and mother-in-law then reached out to Jake to ask what was going on. According to Jake, I couldn't take a joke and had decided to download a dating app to get back at him for going out a lot. He conveniently left out the part where he started doing that first, and his outings and shenanigans with Patrick. That's why she had called me so upset, but after meeting with me and seeing my side of things, she realized her son and Matt were the real problems all along. When she said she would handle it, she meant it. That day, she had asked me to send her all the screenshots and stuff of everything that had happened. I heard this from Ron. He and his wife reached out to me to apologize for their younger brother and filled me in. But apparently, she visited Dana and Matt shortly after and absolutely blew up at them. She said despite seeing all the proof, Dana had chosen to be upset at me and slander my name, instead of accepting her husband's faults, who was more to blame here. I guess despite all this, Dana has chosen to believe Matt and cut off contact with her parents. Ron said mother-in-law doesn't blame me at all, but I can't help but feel guilty about all this. Their whole family exploded just because I had to get some petty revenge on my soon-to-be ex-husband. As for Jake, I tried calling and texting him a few times, but he has literally just ghosted me. He was upset that his mom didn't back him up either on his behavior with me and has been staying at our apartment. Only his name was on the lease, so I don't really care about rent. She tore him a new one and let him know this whole thing was his fault and he shouldn't have been upset at getting a taste of his own medicine. So for now, I think his mom is in low contact with him too, but I can't be sure. This is all I know from Ron, and I have been focusing on work mostly. I am looking to transfer somewhere else and have applied to a bunch of new jobs on the West Coast. I also feel terrible about how I totally messed up my in-laws' family, but at this point, I can't really even do anything about it. I tried reaching out to Dana to apologize, but I think she's got me blocked. My papers will be finalized in a week, and I will have Jake served as soon as possible. I'm feeling mostly guilt and exhaustion, nothing else. This will probably be my only update now, but I will update in case anything significant happens. Happy New Year everyone! Super late, but I've been busy. I also didn't think I would update anymore, but I have gotten so many kind comments and messages here, so I thought that I would give everyone a rundown on how things have been going. My papers were finalized on January 14th, and I had Jake served about a week ago on the 20th. I haven't blocked, and all communication has been through my lawyer since the new year. I do still occasionally speak to his mom, because she has been an absolute sweetheart, and so has Ron. I had coffee with mother-in-law a day before I served Jake, and I let her know about it beforehand out of respect. I didn't think there was anything left in the relationship, since I could finally see how he had behaved all those years, and he couldn't be bothered to apologize to me even after all this. I realized he had no respect for me, but I luckily still had enough respect for myself that I knew when it was time to go. Since then, I have felt waves of anger, sadness, guilt, and loss. I feel bad that I lost so many of what were supposed to be my best years to a person who wasn't who I thought he was, and I sometimes grieve for all the plans that I had for our future. I do realize I'm only 28 though, and have to keep reminding myself that there will be better days to come. My parents have been super supportive, and my company let me know that I can transfer to their office in California starting in March of this year. So, I am excited to start over somewhere new. I've heard Jake is still crashing with Patrick, which infuriates me for some reason. But all I care about now is a smooth divorce. For everyone's sake, he may have been cheating on me. Probably yeah. Call me a coward, but I don't want to know anymore. I just want to be done with that part of my life. Mother-in-law and Ron assure me that their family's problems were not because of me, and that I shouldn't feel guilty. That has made me feel better. Everyone's kind words here have helped me keep me grounded as well. So thank you for that. For now, I've managed to work remotely for most of the time, so I've been at my parents' place. I've also looked into therapy as many here suggested, and maybe I'll start soon. I've met with a few therapists online, but honestly haven't been in the mood to start yet. That's it for now. I don't think I'll be updating soon. So I want to let everyone know that I am so grateful to have had a place to vent and so much kindness and support from total strangers on the internet. And that was a wrap up for today's story. Thank you very much for listening. Smash that like button for me and subscribe for more stories. Thanks again, and we'll be seeing you in the next one.